From drunken donkey to upscale gastropub, this episode of Bar Rescue had everything we could ever want as fans of the show, and we're talking about it today here on the Bar Rescue After Show.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Ladies, gentlemen, and Bar Rescue fans, welcome to AfterBuzz TV's official Bar Rescue After Show. We are so excited to be here today to talk about Season 6, Episode 41. Oh man, I had the title. It's a little long. It's like two donkey balls. J-Lo, I'm going to have you look that up for me today because the title's too good not to say on air.
Yes.
And I am not alone, guys. I am joined by my co-conspirator and personal and professional role model, Keven Undergaro.
And friend of John Taffer, who texted me this week, has been listening to our show or watching our show, and he just he was telling me how he's been the EP of this for the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. He's been, so what you see is all John.
Great.
Like it's all John.
Well, it's, you know what? It speaks to his talent as a producer.
And the little tease, he is saying that that next season, more changes, more innovations.
Wow.
So I'm super excited about that. And I think they'll either going to be hopefully a 200 show or something epic. And who knows, maybe Maria Menounos will reprise her.
How about the AfterBuzz TV Bar Rescue After Show panelists go do recon for Taffer?
I love that. Well, we've done it before.
I saw that.
We did it. Yeah, no, we will.
Okay.
And I was just saying to John how fun it is to do the show with you and working with someone younger who's now discovering the show.
Love it.
So it's really been a lot of fun. And another great episode tonight.
Yes.
I loved it, but I have some questions.
I have some questions too, Kev.
Wow, okay.
You know, again, Taffer, we acknowledge what a genius he is every single week, but I have a bit of a hot take on the renovation, so we'll see when we get there.
We have Bar Rescue updates.
We do have updates.
And then you probably have a Taffer takeaway.
I sure do. So it's, of course, not just coverage, guys. At AfterBuzz TV, we cover your shows, but we also bring you news. We bring you segments because we are the premier conversation network for television, guys. So we do have multiple segments on this show, and we're so glad you're tuned in to hear those. And our fabulous producer got me the title of today's episode. It was called Green Balls and Donkey Balls. Perfect.
And what's another name for a donkey?
It's an ass.
Yes.
Watching Mia panic.
It's so great. Mia is like, I say it all the time, Mia, Phil Wills, and Lisa Marie are the big three. They're the holy trinity of mixologists. And Mia may be the number one, just by an inch. She's the leader. Let's just say she's the captain of the triumvirate. I feel like, and I just love how nerdy she was and so cute. She didn't want to say.
It was adorable.
Yeah, she didn't want to say ass, but she's amazing. And then Tiffany. Now you don't know this, but John did a season. I think it was called. There was a restaurant kind of competition show where two restaurants would fight to get Taffer and two investors to invest in it. It didn't make it, but Tiffany was one of those investors.
Nice.
And she's phenomenal.
Well, we saw her on the, I might have flown solo on this one, Kev, but we did see her on the University of Las Vegas hospitality episode.
Yes. Yeah.
And I really like Tiffany.
She's
Derry.
phenomenal.
She's great.
Phenomenal.
She's fun, but she's also really, really sharp in the kitchen.
That's right.
So it sounds like you liked the episode, Kev. What are your overall thoughts?
I mean, I loved the episode for many reasons. It had so much going on. I cried. Mm-hmm. There was a moment I cried, and but I am not so sure about some of the changes and some of the decisions. You know what, like, and like whatever. I just hope. We're getting a correction.
Oh, green walls and donkey balls. There you go.
So you got millennialed.
I got millennialed. Our producer, J-Lo, I'm calling you out now. J-Lo does an amazing job with this show. And in fairness, walls and balls are one letter away.
Green walls and donkey balls.
Green walls and donkey balls. Yeah, I will say the color scheme of where this bar started was just horrific. And you guys know Keven is our CEO, but he's also kind of a design expert. So everything you see aesthetically in these studios is kind of comes from the Undergaro brain. And you are really conscientious about lighting and color. And you always tell us that
But I'm not
green,
a professional.
Well, I
just go by instinct. So no, I want to qualify that because
fair.
I'm fallible in this area.
But you would agree with the fact that green is probably the least flattering color.
Okay, and this is where I will give you an asterisk.
Yes.
This is where it's like one of those things, the funky name, the funky colors, it's, to cliche the old like bad movie, it's so bad it just might work.
Yeah, it's so bad.
It's so crazy it just might work. And so, remember now when we see this show, you guys, it's studio lighting, not bar lighting.
It's true.
Okay, so they have to bring in studio lights because they're taping a show. So that's why if you notice, especially when they're doing recon or whatever, it's very bright and very flatly lit because you just need to flub that place with light because we as the audience, we need to see the subjects, the bartenders, the patrons. It's not about the vibe of the place. So you're seeing it at its worst. I saw the walls were very scuffed up, and I think they were scuffed up because they probably took down a lot of things that they didn't have the right to show. So that, like in our business,
production design.
We call it, if in show business you would say, oh, you need to Greek that sign.
Oh, interesting.
Have you hear that?
I don't know if I knew that.
It's an old term, and what it means is like, let's say there's an AfterBuzz logo in the back, you would put black tape over AfterBuzz TV, and just kind of tweak it so it's not AfterBuzz anymore.
Neutralize the branding. Or
you get rid of it because you don't have the right. So a lot of times, I know in the renovations we did, the bar rescue renovations we did, there was a lot of stuff that that were covered up, so it made it look even worse. But because I like funky colors and I just like being different and a little odd, and it showed me rather than a lameness, it showed me a commitment to something. Everyone had uniforms, and it wasn't just a green. Like it was a fluorescent, like a lime green. It wasn't like a green that you would never buy that kind of furniture. So to me, that's something special and something different.
Deliberate.
And by the way, even the name, I could see people being in what's Senior Frogs down in Mexico. And it's like if you try and it could work. And I felt like just by naked eye, before I did research on the bar, I was like, I don't know, not so bad.
I agree. I'm actually going to break format this week, guys, because we usually cover this show chronologically, but I actually want to start by talking about the renovation because I feel like both of us have strong opinions about the renovation and the fans want to hear. And then we'll cover the rest of the episode and talk about these characters. But I personally didn't like what they did with the bar. I feel like I agree with you.
Jayla, can we edit that out, please?
I feel like they took what I agree with you is like a kitschy, ridiculous, but identifiable concept,
right,
and sort of whitewashed it to become sort of a generic chain-seeming Champs or Chili's or
like a somewhere between a Chili's and a Ruth Chris, like a steakhouse, So if it looked like the shitholes we've seen, that would have been an amazing renovation,
right?
But we went from something like just bright and funky to something that was great for what you just described. But the other thing too is it looked like it on the surface, but I was looking closely. Remember, like a lot of stuff gets done in 4 days, so it's hard to do that kind of construction in the way you need to. That's going to hold up for 10 years,
right,
to wear and tear. And so I also wonder how much of it would hold up, over the long term. So I agree. Like, and I don't think I've ever said that in 6 seasons of doing the bar rescue after show.
Well, and it's not like the renovation looked bad. I just fear that commercially they're actually hurting this location because I feel like this category of sort of restaurant, like the mid-level nice chain, is such a competitive space.
That's right.
That I almost feel like they had a stronger demographic niche with this concept.
And let's work with the balls like Tiffany did.
I know, I like the balls.
I agree.
Didn't you think, Kev, that we always have these like, kitschy add-ons where it's a photo booth with a cow's butt. I was so ready for a drunk donkey to tip out and give you a ball.
I don't know. Again, this is something I'd love to talk to John about because his relationship with the owner really intrigued me. And, I don't know. I wonder what, John usually doesn't negotiate with them or, say to them, hey, what are you looking for? But, and again, since we're jumping format and the updates, the owner is still singing John's praises.
I know. So things are looking good between how the management and owners feel about the changes, but we'll have to get into the numbers because they may not reflect that.
Yeah.
That's later in the show. But any other thoughts? I know it's a little out of order, but
it is. I think here's one show where I would love to hear from people who are tuning in,
Yes.
and people on YouTube who are tuning in. If people in audio, go over to iTunes, leave us a comment. We love that. But I'd love to hear what other people think. Maybe because I don't know, they were all John, Tiffany, and Mia all were like, "Oh, the green, it's awful." So I mean, maybe in person it was, but
yeah.
And people may disagree with us, but I was thinking the same thing. Like, you know what? Like, I know I can work with this.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the nice thing is during our Bar SQ segment, our Bar SQ update segment, we do have opinions from people who they're kind of across the board with the renovation. So we will get into some of those comments and updates in the Yelp reviews later in the show. Let's talk about these characters we're dealing with, though, because I think we had a couple really interesting protagonists this episode. We had Chris Putnam and Nick Valagatzis.
Yeah.
Greek, probably, right?
Probably Greek. And I know I'm married into that.
Yeah.
So, and he was all Greek.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're partners in this bar. Nick is more of the day-to-day. Chris is more of the silent investor partner. But Nick has pretty much sank $500,000 of Chris's money. And things are tense between the two of them, especially once it's brought to the attention. This happens sometimes in the show where they don't really realize the state of the debt until it's...
This is your failure!
Yeah.
Well, but they don't understand. They do understand the debt, but they just... See, here's an old saying, ours is not labor. So she sees the guy, Nick, showing up and walking around with his flip-flops and yelling at people. So he's like, oh, man, he's riding people. He's trying. Like, he's got passion. And we're just not making money, and I can't figure it out.
Right.
And they don't know enough to go, wait a second. There's more going on here, and there's more that needs to be done.
Definitely. It was interesting. During Recon, we didn't get the usual, this place is disgusting, workflow is abhorrent. It was more just... management was non-existent, and food and drinks were not consistent by any means. The cocktails were nasty. The food, the deviled eggs weren't well prepared. That was...
Oh, my God, I wanted to vomit.
Liquid, yeah, I can't even say it without feeling sick.
God.
But interestingly, I don't think necessarily the bones of this bar were in distress.
No,
it was a different kind of stress test.
And it was, and again, in a
Recon.
different kind of renovation. And I like that. I like that the weeks where we see the worst... messes that we've ever seen, but then I like other things. Like this was management, this was workflow. You're right though. And John threw a compliment at the chef. He said at the end, he said, "You're best probably we've ever worked with." It was a big compliment.
Well, I really liked that chef Enrique, and that's a great example of having someone talented in your kitchen who's just not being managed. Right. Managers are so quick to blame their staff, but I'd say 80% of the time you have a staff with great potential, they're just mismanaged.
Right.
That's what you have to do as a manager, and that's what John does such a good job of calling them out on. So as we mentioned, we have the two queens, Mia Mastriani and Tiffany Derry, in the car going over Recon with them. And what I liked about this was all three of them swooped in and kind of handled their own. It was like battle.
Kudos to the editors.
Yes.
At Three Ball, because I loved going back and forth. There's John, there's Tiff, and there's Mia. 1, 2, 3, counting the kegs, and this is crazy. It was great editing. Great job.
I loved it. Mia's so type A. She's afraid to say ass on her. I kind of relate to that a little bit, but watching her, that had to have been her worst nightmare.
But she's tougher than you.
Yeah, she's tough.
She's tough. She's the straight, Lisa Marie, a little bit more radical.
Yeah.
Phil Wills is a little bit more cool.
Yeah.
But Mia is by the book. And I'll tell you, all three of those guys make great TV. And if I'm John or Spike, I'm developing something with them.
I hear you.
And Tiffany as well. And we a couple of our chefs. I mean, they've just all proven themselves to be great talents.
Absolutely.
There's no show. There's not even close to a show without John.
Right.
So it's never like that they're upstaging him. But I love when we get a good, and I don't know. I'm gonna text Mia. I owe Mia a text. Because I love when she's on.
Let's get her back in here. We should.
Yeah, we should. She's kids think she's really sought after and traveling a lot.
Yeah, which is great for her.
And let me tell you, what I also love about those three is that their passion is mixology. That's it, and nothing else.
Yeah,
it's just mixology, baby.
It's cool to see that elevated because it is an art, and I think people underestimate what a prestigious art it can be.
Right.
But for Mia's personality to walk into a room with 74 unlabeled, that is probably her nightmare.
Yeah, it was.
Given her personality and her...
Yes.
Like, she was talking about anxiety spiking. She actually... who she reminds me of is my wife, is who she reminds me of. If you guys It's all right, but I'm married to a very type A, organized.
I love that. Oh, the best.
And she would be the same. Whenever she sees my closet, she literally, I can feel her heart accelerate because she's a little more organized.
Good wife.
Great wife. So it was fun to see them all kind of take their own wing of battle and go over the recon. And John went in on Nick this episode.
Big time. Should we talk?
Big time.
I mean, do we talk about the menu issues? I guess no. That comes up right. We're getting there, right? We're getting to.
During Recon, they talked about the menu. I think what you mean is the novel Gone with the Wind with food listed in it. This was a multi-page labeled menu.
And John, he's always giving us these little factoids, but he gives us a factoid on how much you decrease your chances of business by having a long script. And that's why, we have a place out here called In-N-Out, but look at a lot of the chains now.
Chipotle. Very
simple menus. Yes, everyone goes very simple.
You're right. Here's the fact, if you guys want to know. Average guest spends about 50 seconds with the menu, and they want to spend about 40 seconds with a menu. Wow. So if it's a 16-page menu, the one exception I can give you is Cheesecake Factory, which I think everything is good on that menu.
Oh, I'm such a civilian like you. I love cheesecake. Yeah, the bowl is like 2 feet. And you're right. In fact, God, I think I'm going to go there now that you said that this week.
There's one at the Grove, Kev. I'll go with you.
Yeah. No, there's one in Sherman Oaks.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Love the show, so we'll go to that one. All right. But... John just goes in. Oh, and the other thing, of course, we need to call out is that they they're not making any of this food from scratch, and they're advertising it that way.
Yeah, from scratch. And you're a liar!
It's a pretty good John impression. But it's true. They're microwaving all this food, and that dries it out. You can taste in a restaurant when you get it. It's gross.
Oh, my God. It's like, come on. Only time you microwave is... when you're drunk. I mean, even, Burger King, you were probably too young to remember, but they were, in the 90s, they were neck and neck with McDonald's.
Yeah.
But they went, somewhere in the late 80s, they went to microwave rather than the flame broiled. They lost a significant amount of their, customer base because of it. A terrible decision.
Interesting.
Well,
that's why the later menu changes were so welcome for this bar. But John goes in, as I mentioned, after, yelling and trying to get organized during this final moments of recon. We end with, they're not in order. They're not alphabetized. Why do you have 4 managers? Is it the same reason that you have 70 kegs? Yes, it's because you're an effing idiot, Nick. That's the last thing we hear, and we're out of there.
I mean, it was, okay, so when you think of Nick, he had parents in the nightclub business, so I immediately thought to myself, and I might be wrong, but I immediately thought to myself, he grew up with some money.
Oh, I could see that.
And then grew up, where the dad was probably the kingpin. The club owners, it's this personality that goes along with them.
Greek.
Probably big guy. Yeah. And listen, I grew up in that family, so I know.
Absolutely.
And the fact that he took the beating he did blew me away.
Well, he didn't take it the whole time, but for most of the episode.
Well, that first he got thrashed in that first part of the recon anyway.
Sure did.
And he took it, and I admired it. The other thing John called out, I was so glad John called him out for something that is my personal pet peeve, and I refrain from telling only my inner circle this, because I know I felt like maybe I was wrong or maybe I was crazy, but now I realize I'm not. The flip flops
and the Hawaiian shirt.
If when I see, but I can't tell you people who show up to an interview in flip flops.
It's bad.
And I just say to myself, like, you can't run in flip flops. You can't. To me, it says 0 sense of urgency, completely laid back. Not to mention not sanitary, not safe. To exposure. I've seen guys have I always go back to it too, because I saw a guy in construction have like 3 toes just cut right off, sheared right off. Ooh. Yeah. So when I see even morons waltzing through Home Depot, like in their flip flops, I'm like, are you crazy? Just those carts alone will like go, or like that will shred your like toes.
And when you're in a bar, this is one of the most physically active. It's aside from production,
right? It just says lame.
Yeah, it says lame. And
lame.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Kev.
And I'm so glad. And I'll tell you something else. If you're out there and you like are trying to apply for a job, please. How many times, even on a film crew, someone shows up like that, and I'm like, no way. We're making an indie film.
Right.
It's going to be a grind. Like, no.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's good. That's an Undergaro takeaway, guys.
Yeah, probably not a good one.
I don't know, Kev.
Hawaiian shirts and flip-flops kind of just go,
I agree with you. We're not always on the same page with stuff, but I agree with flip-flops, and I'm a millennial, so we can
listen.
You can put that on
when
the
I'm on
record.
vacation, I'm in my flip-flops. When it's a Saturday and I'm just waltzing around my apartment, I'm in my flip-flops. Fine, but when I have a job to do or I want to show up and impress somebody, I'm not in my flip-flops.
It's true. Well said. Okay, so the next day, Nick is coming in, and he's already kind of aggravated and pissed. That's what he says. And I'm not going to say I understand why, but I could empathize with what a beating Nick took.
He took an amazing beating, and he didn't. And I think because he wasn't fighting back, John just kept hitting him. And because John's trying to break you.
He's trying to break him.
He's trying to break you, and so he can rebuild you.
Right. Absolutely.
It's the old way of, that's been around forever.
But we re-explore a classic bar rescue trope, which is how many managers does your team have? And it's the 4 managers.
And here's the thing. John didn't have time to call anyone out on, but did any of those managers have a quality response for their job?
No. I mean, the one said scheduling.
I'm responsible for morale, keeping everybody positive. The lead girl, I'm like, okay, not a manager. Go ahead. I mean,
I'm responsible for the sense of fun that our bar has.
I mean, but maybe they do more and they just were put on the spot. I don't know.
Yeah, that can be tough when in the moment you're called out to list. You should have that in your back pocket, the list of all the responsibilities and contributions.
If I said to you here, you would be, no matter who was yelling and how loud, you'd be able to say it afterwards. I do X, Y, Z, credibly. And
that's a good point. Until we wrap the show, probably.
Yeah.
No, in the best way. I mean, it's one of my favorite things about working here is I've been given the privilege to wear so many hats. I feel like it's such a gift. But this was tough because Taffer says you need to fire one of these 4 managers.
Yeah, well, here's the other thing too, and I had this problem years ago here, is you have all these people working for you and all these managers, and then you're putting out all that money, and then your place sucks and you're losing money.
Right.
You're so
right.
It's like, what are we doing?
Well, it was a labor cost issue, and I love when bar rescue gets specific
and scientific.
Exactly.
So we learned what 25 to 32%.
You need to be yielding less than that with labor, spending less than that on labor costs, or you won't yield profit. That's like the red line that you need to stay under on your labor wages, or you won't profit. And in the current system, there was objectively no way they could continue this way. So Taffer gives the responsibility to Nick and Chris, to fire someone, and they did.
And that's what was interesting with this guy. He took a beating for a guy that seemed like a blowhard and was loud. He took a beating. He hung in, and I feel as though he wasn't calculated about it. We've seen the other guys hang in and then afterwards tell the press, "I'm a businessman, so I did it all on purpose so I could get a renovation out of it." And I don't feel like he was like that.
No. There was an earnestness about it.
Yeah. And then he, I thought he was so nice the way he fired the kid, and he said, "I'm sorry." And then the kid was like, typical of that response, "Yeah, I'm feeling it right now." But I don't know. It's usually people who aren't doing their jobs that react that way.
Right. Sometimes it's probably a gift because you see.
It's always a gift.
When someone reacts
for
that
both
way.
parties.
Yeah.
But go do something else where your strong suit is. But even the girl had admitted that he was the weak link.
Yeah, they all knew. Okay, so that leads into our first round of training, and I liked these Texas margaritas. They had these pineapple fronds.
You love, yes, I know.
Love this part. It did look very refreshing.
It looked refreshing.
But what I really liked actually in the kitchen was deep frying ribs. I don't know if I've seen that too much.
Oh my God, amazing!
Yeah.
And I love how John shouted out to Tiffany. Normally he doesn't do that, but he was like, and because of Tiffany.
Yeah, I love that
her
too.
Genius idea, because that's why the stress test was like a breeze.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see, like, at the stress test, everyone had their full plates.
It was wild. And that's actually, we're right there now. We get into our stress test, and this is one of the few examples where, bar workflow is always kind of an SHIT show.
Right.
But food usually follows right in its footsteps. But they're getting food out. Enrique's doing a great job. Tiffany's running that
Enrique
kitchen.
was amazing, and then Tiffany just nailed it with something really simple and amazing.
It looked so good.
So good.
The only reason there were delays in the food was because they didn't know how to run the food, which happens a lot on Bar Rescue.
Yes, and then that was the other thing. He called it jamming? No,
dumping.
Dumping. Mm-hmm. And another like great always learning stuff. 6 seasons in,
Definitely.
100 and something shows in, we're always learning. But dumping is what? It's when
waiters collect all the orders before putting them into the POS system. So if you take 20 tables because it's easier for your shift and then go put them on the POS system, you're dumping 20 minutes worth of orders into a single POS run, and it's too much for the kitchen to handle. Whereas you really should take 3 tables, put those orders in, take 3 more tables, put those orders in, because you really screw your kitchen when you do that.
Right.
And it can be hard to know how to prioritize your food when it's coming in huge, massive loads. It's like LA traffic.
Yes.
So part of the reason the food was struggling to come out was because John empowered Nick to help his team, and he didn't have any of the foundational knowledge to help.
No.
And this must have been, as much as, you know, we could laugh at Nick and he should have all this knowledge, that's probably a pretty brutal gut punch to recognize. Because as a manager, you should be able to step into any position.
I think, again, this is all theory. I think he owns multiple businesses, multiple bars.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's his moment to kind of be on camera and got more involved than he normally would be. And then that's why he probably didn't know what was going on, I think.
Well, yeah, he was not ready to contribute to workflow in this bar at all. And that was probably, to me, that was like the main focus of the stress test, was obviously cocktails weren't coming out right. There was inconsistencies, but really top down, there was just no leadership.
Right.
And Nick wasn't able to hop into the trenches with his army. And John called him out on it. John says, "Nick, I'm furious. Are you fake or real? This guy can't do a freaking thing." And that was really the breaking point.
Are you fake or real? Yeah.
Are you fake or are you real? And I think, you know, people break when there's a grain of truth to what's being asked. You know, if Nick really had the confidence that he knew what he was doing, he probably would have been okay. But he lashed back out at John, got upset, and it's probably because deep down he knew he felt a bit like a fraud during this situation.
Right.
And of course, it's that demoralizing moment when John makes you apologize to everyone in the bar.
Yeah. Now apologize to everybody.
Brutal. But Nick did apologize in a very sincere way. He was a very interesting protagonist to me.
He really was.
Because there was some damage there that we'll get into later.
Yeah.
But some of these guys, they're the douchebag wackos we talk about. But Nick had a big, pretty broken heart.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see him navigate that throughout the episode.
Yeah.
Anything else with the stress test that you want to call out? To me, it was primarily just Nick struggling to support his team.
Yes. Yeah. And again, I wonder how bad this place really was.
I know.
Because, tables were filled with food and drink. It was one of the better, not entertainment-wise, but one of the better, it seemed like one of the better stress tests bar rescues ever had.
I would agree. Okay. Let's keep going. So we have our heart-to-heart the next day, and this is where things got really interesting because Nick came into the bar with a pretty sour attitude, feeling pretty upset about what had happened the night before. And John kind of recognized that and gave Nick a lot of grace and space to express how he really feels.
Well, this is the time now where I feel like in bar rescue, we're in now. Mm-hmm. You've been through the worst. And now, we're renovating your bar. It's almost no turning back. I mean, I'm sure if the person pisses on John, he'll pull the plug.
Yep.
I would think.
I mean, it's happened before.
It has, but usually not this late.
Yeah.
In the game. But I think that, Chris went into it, or Nick went into it, thinking he was going to get reamed again, and not realizing that this is when John goes, "Hey, that's it. Now we're in." Like you made it through, basic training, and now we're in battle together to fix this and make it happen. And when you find out about Nick's story, he lost the dad, then he lost the mother.
Within 10 months of each other.
Yeah, and so you can just see he was really heartbroken.
Very.
And I can see that. We have a friend who owns one of the biggest bar chains, out there, restaurant, and he celebrated a birthday last week or 2 weeks ago, and it was the same thing. His dad's like 90 and was like in a wheelchair, and it's in the last stages of his life, and our friend just started crying, because he knew it was over. But you feel like, I bet you the father and son were in the bar business together, and I could just see him as a little kid being with the dad when the dad had clubs, so it knocked the wind out of his sails, and he was very emotional. And that's I got choked up. John always does it to me, but I did. I started to well up with tears. I felt bad for the guy, and it was just nice that John was like, John said some amazing things to him. Like, right? I believe on you. Let's do it together.
Yeah,
right?
You're a great freaking guy, man.
Yeah.
I believe in you. And do you believe that you deserve this?
Yes.
Say it again. Do you believe that? I can't even talk about it without getting kind of emotional.
Right. I know.
Dang. This was really good stuff.
And again, so that's why this show's so amazing, that where we don't agree that it's the best renovation, like that was just a wonderful moment.
Oh, yeah.
And that will do more for that guy. If he really hurt John, it may do more for him than any renovation ever would.
I agree. And we talked a bit about our thoughts on the renovation. We're going to get into our updates in just a minute, but any other thoughts on the renovation? We covered that at the top. I think we were pretty thorough with how we felt about it.
Yeah. I mean, but here's the thing. Nick loved it. They all loved it. So I don't know if it was because he just fell in love with John, or he just was like, in John we trust, or if he just loved all the new stuff. I don't know. I don't know. Or if he's so successful in so many other things that maybe didn't matter as much. I don't know. I mean, listen, the name was good. The look was good, but not compared to what it was. I like the whole kind of Senor Frogs.
I agree. The novelty.
Oddball place. Yeah, think of merchandise.
Yep.
Even for a place like that. Like, you don't have balls. Like, think of like so many fun things you could do with that.
It takes balls to drink here.
Yeah, and then Tiffany created the great, meatball, which looked exquisite.
Yeah, they looked great.
So yeah, no. And by the way, this is probably my first time. I mean, I've been down on some of the signs that have been there. I've thought some of the renovations were, not some better than others. But this one, I didn't. I don't know.
Well, we're gonna get into how things have panned out since the renovation. First, we do have our tap for takeaway, though. Mine's pretty specific, and that's if you're running a bar, you don't want to have a huge beer tap menu unless you are a gastropub, unless what you do is beer, right?
Yeah.
I feel like 74 taps feels like it's its own novelty.
Yes.
You go for the beer. This wasn't a beer brewery. This was a bar. And how do you
keep, and listen, what bar, how do you keep setting this? I don't know. I've seen some in Boston, like outside of Fenway Park, that just deal with so much overturn.
Right.
How do you keep 74 taps
fresh?
You can't.
I know.
I know. Like we have 2 kegs at our house, 2 keg systems, and a month and a half, 2 months, they're gone. They're dead.
Yep.
So I don't. Yeah.
I think if you're gonna go that route, if you're gonna have more than 10 beers on tap, it has to be the novelty of the bar. You have to be a beer-specific bar. Right. So that was smart for them to kind of revamp and focus on cocktails. After our tap for takeaway, we always get into our news, which we label as our bar rescue updates.
AfterBuzz TV News.
Interesting updates for us, Kev.
Very interesting.
I'm going to start with reviews.
All right.
We have some positive reviews and we have some negative reviews.
Alrighty.
Let me start with the positive. Friendly staff and great menu, excellent range of items for that crave of just a cheeseburger to an elevated crave for that lemon herb quail. Cocktails were sexy and I loved every sip. We will be back for games and other events as this venue has a great concept for all. What a turnaround. The service was impeccable. The appetizers and meals were wonderful. We were fit to be tied with seating and lackluster service at the Drunken Donkey and thought we would give this place a shot since the bar rescue revamp. Seriously impressed, and we're glad we made the visit. Definitely worth the stop, and we'll be back soon.
Usually we rarely see the hospitality going up.
Yes. I know.
It usually doesn't. They usually can't get them all to behave. And that's really good.
So now we're going to get into some negative reviews.
Okay.
This place was apparently on the show Bar Rescue and was previously the Drunken Donkey. From what I know of this show, they renovate the decor quickly and cheaply. The, quote, wooden walls and the messy paint job didn't do this dark space any favors. There's nothing wrong with the dark bar, but when it's trying to be a chic restaurant, it just doesn't work. Now, I ordered the wings and it was nothing to write home about. Lastly, the music consisted of outdated pop music and did not fit the overall vibe of the place. Most people probably wouldn't notice me, but it annoyed me more than it should have. One more, just because it talks about the donkey, which is interesting. Not sure if they realize what they've done. I'm sure they wanted to make it better, but unfortunately they missed the mark. I went on Friday and the place should have been packed. The donkey was always busy. Plenty of space in peak hours. Not good. The food was not good. The beer selection has decreased, and I think they really should have kept some of the better sellers. may have made some decisions that could have hurt the business. Sad because I enjoyed it the way it was. So interesting stuff. Luckily, the owners are really happy with the renovation. We have Nick, who went on his Facebook page and said, and yes, despite the ass whooping I got and getting my balls kicked in, this truly was a great experience. I almost walked off 3 times, but I was in too deep. Thank you so much, John Taffer. This place turned out nice. So here's what's interesting. Bar SQ updates will go into the Texas receipts and look what's happening.
Yeah.
Sales have gone down since the change.
Oof.
So before the makeover, they were making over $100,000 a month on average. In April, they made $74,000. In May, they made $83,000. And in June, they went back down to $75,000. According to gross receipts, the location used to do well over $100,000 in sales a month, and now they aren't making those numbers anymore. So,
and they mentioned, I believe, that they do have another Donkey Balls location.
They do, and I'm not sure if they're going to keep that Drunken Donkey or change it to Butcher and Brew.
Yeah, I don't. I probably not.
Either way, we had a local comment in the Bar SQ updates, which is pretty interesting. This comment comes from C, who says, this rescue didn't make any sense. The Donkey was always full on weekends, especially late at night, because they were one of the few bars open until 2 a.m. in this area. From the outside, it didn't look like this bar, and it never had any real problems. So
very interesting.
Very interesting, but very, very enjoyable episode.
And what I didn't know is I'd love to preview for next week, but can you look on that little thing you call a computer?
I will.
And see if there's a new episode next week, because I did not see a preview.
Yes, and I know it feels like Paramount's getting these out kind of down to the wire, but it says, yes, next week, episode 42, Doreen's Dilemma.
Oh, do we have a description?
Let me see if I can find it.
I don't know. I have a good feeling about the name Doreen and the fact that she has a dilemma.
It's great. I'm gonna see if we can find anything, because we do have a little bit of time. I'm not gonna have any dead air because I am a professional.
No.
Here we go. Okay, episode summary on Doreen. Okay. The daughter of a longtime bar owner steps into his shoes after his abrupt passing. So maybe this will be an emotional episode.
Yeah, it definitely will be.
Will she learn the business on the fly or see her late father's legacy crumble from underneath her?
This is your father's legacy! And you let me go up in flames!
Would you ever be Taffer for Halloween? Would he like that? Or would
No, he wouldn't like that. No.
We could go as Bar SQ characters for Halloween, though. We could find our favorites.
Yeah, that's true.
It could be kind of fun. I would be Roundhouse Rick.
And I would be One-Eyed Pete from the Pirates episode.
Oh, I know. I've seen Pirates.
Listen, we have a new one next week, but then the minute we have a blank one, we've got to come back and do Pirates.
I promise you we will, guys. It looks like we're set for a while in terms of episodes, but we will cover Pirates because, you know what? August 19th, August 18th, it looks like there's no episode.
And I'm out of town. Unfortunately. So.
It'll happen, guys.
Yes.
It'll happen because we're here every week, guys. This is the Bar SQ After Show, and we are incredibly passionate about this show just like you are. Quickly, if I may, I would love to ask you guys to help us out a little bit. We are, as I mentioned at the top, the ESPN of TV Talk, and we are passionate TV obsessies, and we love sharing that passion with you. Guys, I get it. Not everyone is as obsessed with TV as you are, but this is your safe place. This is where you can join the band of misfits who's just as passionate about TV as you are. So subscribe to this channel, subscribe to our other channels, and check out some of our other content. We truly do cover just about everything on TV.
And by the way, Jeff, you just launched something pretty exciting. Can we talk about that? If fans of Bachelor?
We can, yeah. It'll be airing tonight. I'm doing a 3 to 5 minute daily segment on news that's breaking in Bachelor Nation.
AfterBuzz TV Bachelor News Daily.
Yes, Bachelor Daily is what we're calling
it. And so it's what's going on in Bachelor today, updates of some of your people from the past, and just up-to-date news and commentary. So if you don't have time to stalk all those guys on Instagram or Twitter, we do it for you.
We will. And I will say, guys, this was a very juicy premiere episode. If you've been following Tyler, Hannah, and Jed, huge development. I'm not going to say it on air because you have to go check out our coverage, but even I was shocked by what I learned.
I'm a 90 Day Fiancé guy.
Fair enough. Yeah, I've never seen an episode, Kev.
Oh, my goodness. Maybe it's probably better you don't, because you'll just get too obsessed. I was going to say. And your wife. It's a lot, but it's magnificent.
Well, I will say, Kev, I will hear, you're an example of one. People from, the most pretentious upper class only watch Game of Thrones to the reality TV junkies, everyone says that it's the best show on TV.
It's rocking high low.
It's rocking the high low.
It's amazing. It really is my favorite reality unscripted series. It's fantastic. Also, we do the loudest voice here, don't we?
We covered it, I believe. Or if we didn't, I know we're going to be doing coverage for it. The Roger Ailes Fox. Yes.
No, we must be doing it.
I'm sure we did.
We
yeah.
have to do
I thought it already wrapped, though.
No.
We got screeners, that's why. I think we pre-taped.
Penultimate episode.
Oh, the penultimate, yes.
Was last night, and then next week
Russell Crowe's pretty
is the
good.
finale. Oh, it's great. It's great. And yeah, I mean, TV, this is the golden age of TV.
We're living in it, guys. So we
lucky.
ask you to subscribe to our channels. And really quickly, I have been checking the Bar Rescue After Show iTunes reviews, and I'm waiting for those 5-star reviews that I will read on air. So we ask you guys, hop on there, give us those 5 stars, and I promise I'll read them on air. Until then, guys, my name is Jeff Graham. Thank you so much for tuning into our coverage today. As I mentioned, we're here every Monday around 2 p.m. to cover the episodes from the night before. And I'm always joined by my co-conspirator, Keven Undergaro.
And it's, for me, at Undergaro, and I don't really tweet much, but Instagram. But and then we do the Tomorrow Show on the Not Sam Network Wednesday nights.
And it's great. You guys got to check it out.
And Jeff, where do we find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Jeffrey C. Graham. And I will say our network and producers have put a lot of juice into our AfterBuzz TV Twitter. We've seen a lot of increased growth and engagement, and we're tweeting some fun stuff there. So check us out and subscribe there.
So Taffer may not come in, and I've always been nervous that he was going to come in and just see this place and tear my ass out. So,
you think?
No, I've always worried about it, and he'd feel bad for Maria, my wife, and her role in this. But I think he'll actually be proud of us now.
I'm sure, Keven, he would. Taffer would love this. And you know what? Tune in because we may bring him in.
Actually, he's been here. No, he
has been
here. We get the stamp of approval.
We get a stamp of approval, and we hope that we get your stamp of approval, guys. We'll see you here next week on the Bar Rescue After Show.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.